Guy, who lives in Moundridge, Kansas, hit us and he said, which teams need to win it all or win enough to save their coaches' butts this year? It sounds like Guy is asking who's on the clock. And this could be one of two things. Like he said, you could need to win to save your job, or you could need to win just because if you don't win now, when are you really going to do it? And that latter category is how I look at Texas. Steve Sarkisian and Texas are on the clock this year because they're all in. They are Ohio State 2 years ago. Buckeyes ended up winning a title when they were all in. Texas, don't know because the season's still ahead of us. Arch Manning, plus that portal class, you may have the number one quarterback in the country and tackle in the country and edge player in the country and wide receiver or one of the best receivers in the country, a loaded cornerback room, overhauled the running back room entirely. It's all there. Everything you could possibly want or say that you need as the head coach or the general manager or a staffer or a fan at Texas is there. Schedule's a little tough. Yeah, guess what? All of them have to play you too. So Oklahoma made the playoff last year. So there's no complaining about schedule when you load up like this. Texas has got to get the job done. By get the job done, I mean they have to be in that national championship picture when the national championship happens. So I guess I'm saying they got to make the national title game. I know that's lofty, but when are you ever going to have it put together better than this? So they're on the clock in 2026. I think Oregon is too. It's kind of the same thing here. There's no job security pressure for Dan Lanning, but it's the same thing. We know you can win a ton of games. Now, can you show us that you can win in the playoffs? Can you show us that when you go up against other rosters that look like yours, other coaching staffs that are as highly paid as yours, can you get the job done? Can you be better than them? Defensive line returns. Dante Moore's back. DeCorian Moore and Evan Stewart are back. And all we're looking for here is we're looking for you to continue to do what you've been doing in the regular season, but then when we come up on Ohio State, or maybe an Indiana, or maybe a Texas, maybe a Georgia, when we come up on them in the playoff and we got to beat 2 or 3 of them, can we get that job done? That's what you're on the clock for at this point, because all the other questions are answered at Oregon. Now, for much different reasons, Florida State's on the clock. Mike Norvell and FSU. FSU got to be on the clock because it's kind of a final straw moment. It's kind of a final stand moment, it feels like, for Mike Norvell. 2023 was forever ago. Sometimes you can do a great thing and you live off the equity of that thing for a long time. That equity burned up really quick. That's what 2-10 and 5-7 will do for you. No more equity. Everyone kind of looks at that and says, that was fun, but it turns out that was the exception. And mediocrity, or worse than that, has been the rule. And I can't push back on it. And also, there's this widely held understanding that the only reason that coaching staff even survived last year was because the buyout was too big, because of the renegotiated deal they had when they won the ACC and got sort of low-key shafted out of a playoff spot a couple of years ago, 3 years ago. So Florida State, I don't know what the total is. I don't know what the win total they need is, but certainly got to be above 500, I would think. Now, that brings you to the next question of what does 7-6 do? Is 7-6 okay? You go from 2-10 to 5-7 to 7-6. Is that okay? Technically, it's progress. It's 3-year linear progress. But when you have 13 wins 4 seasons ago, no, it doesn't really work. Now, USC, quick 5-second timeout. Check and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. It keeps it free. We love you. All right, back to the show. At USC, this is a different, it's kind of like a hybrid bucket of those two. No one's asking Lincoln Riley to win a national title or bust this year. I, at least, am not sitting here saying you better win or you're going to get fired. Maybe somebody is. I'm not. But USC has gone 11-3, 8-5, 7-6, and then 9-4 last year under Lincoln Riley. And we've talked about this dynamic a lot on the show. Of a couple of years ago, he looked around and he said, yeah, okay, I admit it. We got to make some changes. And they did. And not the least of which was defensive changes, and then they got better. They've made strength and conditioning changes there. Even if you can't see it yet, they've gotten and are getting a lot better there. And then he got kind of 2 years, make sure we reset, make sure we got everything in place. All right, here we go. We're coming off the heels of a number 1 recruiting class. We made some really good moves in the transfer portal. We've got a 3rd-year starter at quarterback. You've got to win this year. You've got to make the playoffs this year. That's kind of how Lincoln Riley and USC are on the clock. I don't push back on that, and I don't disagree with it. They got Ohio State and Oregon coming to the Coliseum, by the way. I was out there. I went and did the speaker series with Lincoln last spring, and they were putting the finishing touches on a lot of new renovation on campus, and construction in downtown Los Angeles, not cheap. So I got a lot of things going for them there that are all predicated on being reflected in on-field results. If you don't have the on-field results, no one cares what your facilities look like. No one cares what your recruiting classes are ranked. They're just going to come poach all your guys. So that's what we're waiting on. What about Baylor? It's been a long time since we talked about Baylor. Dave Aranda, because his athletic director ended up getting fired last year, got to keep his job. It looked like Aranda was gone, and then all of a sudden the AD's out and, hey, we're just not going to make a move on the head coach. What? Everybody had already written Dave out of there. Since he won the Big 12, he's gone 6-7, 3-9, 8-5, 5-7. And I'm a Dave Aranda guy, but I can't just keep backing him if the results look like that. And keep in mind, in the Big 12, we've got this barometer that's been set, this bar that's been set over in Lubbock, Texas, and everyone's looking at that, and you're either playing catch up or you're just watching the top half or the top part of the Big 12 pull away from you. Because for a while in the Big 12, even if you didn't have your act together, it's okay. It's okay because all the conferences just compressed together. Well, it's not that way anymore. And that's a problem if you're not Texas Tech or you don't have your act together. And so I think Baylor is certainly on the clock. I'd put Wisconsin here as well. Luke Fickell came there. Luke Fickell came to Wisconsin a few years ago, and I was sky high on the hire. And as it turns out, he hadn't even come close to matching what Paul Chryst was doing. 7-6 to 5-7 to 4-8. It just feels like the wood was a little wet when they tried to light it. Or, in football terms, he had the wrong philosophy and wrong guys on his staff offensively at the outset. They've tried to fix that. But as Lincoln Riley found out, once the car leaves the garage a little bit and gets out on the road, once the plane leaves the runway, it's hard to repair it unless you land it or you pull the car back into the garage. But that's not fun because no one wants to do that. Well, that's kind of what they've been doing at Wisconsin. They went and took a ton of transfers, I think over 30 of them, Jesse, and a lot of guys went out. And if you just look on paper, it's hard to tell whether they definitively upgraded the caliber of player. But that's paper, okay? So I have to trust that Luke Fickell's evaluations of the guys he's bringing in and the guys that they're letting go or they're watching walk out the door, I have to trust that they came out a net winner in that trade-off. But they've got to get it done. 4-8 last year. I would say you need to add, I think they need to go 8-4. That's what I would guess they need to go up there. And there were rumors that they were going to be looking for a new head coach, and instead what they did was they kept Luke Fickell and they chose to invest in the recruiting class. Now, I'm a believer in that philosophy if I believe in the coach, and I believe in Luke Fickell. Here's the problem, potentially. We said that about Napier at Florida last year. Florida didn't fire Billy. They just invested a ton in talent acquisition, and it was more of the same the next year, and then they ended up firing a head coach midseason. That is the way it could go at Wisconsin this year. I'm hoping for their sake it goes the opposite way.